Lawrence, before I begin, I just thought I would, you said that we're all sharing molecules from the breath breathed by Feynman, but you didn't say how that can be true. And so I would like to add information to this, that it is true because for every breath you take, you inhale more molecules of air than there are breaths of air in the entire Earth's atmosphere. And it's because of this fact that anytime someone has exhaled in the past, there are enough molecules to spread into everyone's breath. And so what is true for Feynman would be true for any person throughout history, including Genghis Khan, Beethoven, Jesus, whoever is your person.
No, real people.
You're sharing.
If NASA weren't around, what would happen to our universe? Well, I can tell you this. If NASA weren't here, we would know a lot less about the universe. And we would be intellectually impoverished by that fact. Because I enjoy knowing where we are, where we came from, and where we're going. And those questions are answered from space. To know how Earth got here, how the sun got here, what the future of Earth will be, what the future of our sun will be. Will we need to leave Earth and find another planet? All of that comes to us from the discoveries of a space program. Much of those discoveries have come from NASA. So it's not that the universe would be different if NASA never existed. It's that we would be different in a way that I don't even want to think about.
So we wouldn't know a single thing about the universe.
Yeah, we wouldn't know a single thing about the universe. We'd just be rummaging on Earth's surface thinking that our solutions to all our problems come from looking down rather than from looking up.
It would be arrogant for us to believe that we are the only intelligent life in the entire universe.
It'd be pig-headed, yeah. There's no, yeah. Again, the sheer numbers that are involved. Not only how many stars in the galaxy, how many galaxies there are in the universe, and as it is now becoming apparent that planets may be common around stars, for us to think we're the only life, there's no way to justify that given the sheer numerics of it. In addition, the chemistry of life, the carbon molecules, the carbon chemistry that drives life as we know it, would be common everywhere in the universe because carbon is everywhere we look. So if we were made of bismuth or some unusual element, then we might have the right to assume that we're unusual. But we're made of the most common stuff in the universe.
Your best guess that there is life of an intelligent form similar to us somewhere else in some other place?
Yeah, I think it's well,
likely, probably.
I'm riding the fence on that because if you look at the history of life on Earth, by most definitions of intelligence, nearly all life that has ever existed on Earth has not been intelligent, yet it's been getting along just fine. So it doesn't appear that intelligence is a prerequisite to survive, to exist. And so I'm happy just looking for life at all, whether or not it can do complex mathematics.
Let's get to the exploded rocket on the launch pad. One thing we've failed to do in the educational system is alert people that if you're doing what no one has done before, stuff goes wrong. And in fact, if nothing ever goes wrong in what you're doing, if you make no mistakes in your job, in whatever task you've brought upon yourself, then you're not on the frontier. Simple. It's true in science, and I heard it applied to car racing. There's a quote that I'm told spoken by Mario Andretti. He said, if you are in complete control of your car, you're not in the race.
Oh, wow.
There's something that you're just not completely in control of. And only then can, and that's the same thing I'm describing for when you are on the frontier. And SpaceX is on the frontier, not a space frontier where they're going farther than NASA has gone. They're on another kind of a frontier where they want to make access to space maximally affordable. So that means they have to design their rockets differently from how anybody else had done it before, and they're going to be mistakes. So I see the explosion on the launch pad, and I say that is an occurrence that is rich with learning opportunities. It's not just a spin, it's real.
Yeah.
And it's, yes, it's a spectacular explosion because the whole rocket is filled with fuel. But it's typically one little thing that went wrong that they had not anticipated. They have to design it differently. Go back to the early days of NASA. There's footage on YouTube. Yeah. Just rockets blowing up all the time because no one had put rockets in space before. So now they're trying to do it in a whole new way. I'm going to expect that and more.
If you look at our closest genetic relative to human beings, it would be the chimpanzee. We share like 98+% identical DNA. We are smarter than a chimpanzee. So let's invent a measure of intelligence that make humans unique. Let's say intelligence is your ability to like compose poetry, symphonies, do art, math, and science, let's say, okay? Let's make that as the arbitrary definition of intelligence for the moment. Chimps can't do any of that. Yet we share 98, 99% identical DNA, okay? The most brilliant chimp there ever was maybe can do a little bit of sign language. Well, our toddlers can do that. Toddlers. So here's what concerns me deeply. Deeply. Everything that we are that distinguishes us from chimps emerges from that 1% difference in DNA. It has to, because that's the difference. The Hubble telescope, these that's in that 1%. Maybe everything that we are that is not the chimp is not as smart compared to the chimp as we tell ourselves it is. Maybe the difference between constructing and launching a Hubble telescope and a chimp combining two finger motions as sign language, maybe that difference is not all that great. We tell ourselves it is, just the same way we label our books optical illusions. We tell ourselves it's a lot. Maybe it's almost nothing. How would we decide that? Imagine another life form that's 1% different from us, in the direction that we are different from the chimp. Think about that. We got 1% difference and we're building the Hubble telescope. Go another 1%. What are we to they? We would be drooling, blithering idiots in their presence. That's what we would be. They would take Stephen Hawking and roll him in front of their primate researchers and say, well, this one is like the most brilliant among them because he can do sort of astrophysics in his head. Oh, isn't that cute? Little Johnny can do that too. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, in fact, Johnny just did that. Let me get it. It's on the refrigerator door. Here he is. He did it in his... On the conservative right. The people who are anti-vaxxers are primarily left-leaning people. The people who are all into alternative medicine, which requires at some level that you reject mainstream medicine, are primarily people on the left. The people who are into odd, unusual, peculiar diets, they're people on the left. And so, so these are different issues, of course, but when I hear left people speaking of Republicans being anti-science, and I go down the list of things that are squarely in the portfolio of left-leaning people, I offer I'm not choosing sides with you.
A day to try to solve this, and not just
concerned about Congress. Well, I checked these numbers. 57% of Senate, 38% of the House cite law as their profession. And when you look at law is, well, what happens in the courtroom? It doesn't go to what's right. It goes to who argues best. And there's this urge, the entire profession is founded on who the best arguers are.
Right. It's not, a courtroom is not about the truth. It's about that the theory, if I get what you're saying, is that each side argues their version, and then the truth somehow emerges.
That's the premise. However, the practice, which, for example, is bred in debating teams, for example, where you know the subject, but you don't know what side you're going to be put on to argue.
Right.
And so the act of arguing and not agreeing seems to be fundamental to that profession, and Congress is half that profession. And I realized this when I was a kid. I was 12, and I said, oh, I wonder what profession all these senators and congressmen were. Law, businessman, law. And I said, there are no scientists? Where are the engineers? Where's the rest of life represented here? And so when I look at the conflicts, the argumentative conflicts, I just sit back and say, you know, can I buy an engineer, please? Or put somebody, a business person who knows how to make a hard but significant financial decision, because at the end of the day, they got to make their books work. Yeah, I don't know if you saw this. Key and Peele parodied me and my wife. Not knowing that my wife has a PhD in mathematical physics. They did not know this. So Key and Peele are dressed up as me and as my wife. And my wife comes up to me and says, Neil deGrasse Tyson, you haven't taken out the garbage yet. And I stand there and I say, but in the multiverse theory, there could be a parallel universe in which I actually have taken out the garbage. So, and we don't know at all times by the quantum uncertainty principles which universe we might be in. So that in fact, this could be the universe in which I had taken out the garbage. And my wife goes, oh, wow, okay. So there's a series of these where he basically gets away with murder, right? But cosmoses his way out of the responsibilities. And so people say, well, how do I feel? And I say, I don't feel. I don't invest emotion in what artists do. What I do is applaud the fact that there are artists of all kinds, musicians, actors, comedians, that have found the moving frontier of science as legitimate sources of their inspirational muse. And that, I think, is something to celebrate.